Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Your Cheddar, presented by Ally. We are live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Kristen Scholler, and joining me as my co-host, John Steinberg.
Good to be here. Cheddar has teamed up with Ally to bring you Your Cheddar, the show that gives you savings and spending strategies and career advice from experts who know what they're doing. Ally is a leading digital financial services company offering competitive online banking, auto finance, credit card, home loan, and investment products and services. They focus on innovation and are committed to doing right by you and your cheddar. And now a brief disclaimer. While Ally Financial is the presenting sponsor of this program, the opinions and statements expressed in the following segments are our own. Today, we are bringing you a special segment.
Yep, of Your Cheddar, presented by Ally. This week's show is all about the financial ramifications of breaking up, whether it's a breakup in a relationship or a divorce, a separation from a job or a career shift, or even moving to a new city. We'll explore the personal finance implications of various breakups, how to prepare for them, and how to rebound from them as well.
All right, to start things off, we've got two very special guests. Joining us now are Andrea Riley, the Chief Marketing and Public Relations Officer for Ally, and Kathy Patterson, Ally's Chief Human Resources Officer. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
Good to have you guys here.
It's great to be here.
Fresh from the Motor City?
That's right, fresh from the D.
I think people think breakups, and all these breakups we're going to discuss today, is like a negative topic, but it's a life cycle. Everybody goes through it, right?
That's right, that's right. You have to be prepared. There's a lot of things that you have to think about when you're going through a breakup, and you have to be rational when you're going through it. I know there's a lot of emotion involved, but there's a lot of rational aspects to it as well.
All right, Kathy, let's start with breaking up from a job. And what is the process an individual should go through before, during the conversation with HR? I mean, you're obviously on the other side of the table a lot of the time, and then immediately after that conversation, both if you know that it's coming or if you don't know that it's coming.
Yeah. The key to exiting an organization gracefully is thinking and acting in the long term. You need to think about how you're going to maintain a strong relationship with that former employer and colleagues. So the way in which you navigate that says a lot about your professional image and your corporate professionalism that you're going to demonstrate. So when you look at like the normal for millennials now, they're having roughly around 4 career shifts within the first 10 years, their first decade out of school, which is pretty amazing, that's an extreme network that you want to build on. So the first thing you want to think about when the time comes to say goodbye to your employer is you need to think about starting with yourself. What is your reason for exiting? It has to be about you. Many times I see young employees come in and talk about what the company didn't offer or start to complain. You need to make it about you. What's the opportunities that you're going towards? Promotional opportunities. Have the conversation with your boss. It needs to be a direct conversation, and then follow up with an email afterwards.
So it sounds like, too, that's, I guess, advice, right? If you decide maybe that you want to leave a company, but what if the tables are turned a bit and you're let go and you actually didn't want this breakup, but it is the reality anyway?
Right. The first step is don't take it personally. Companies make tough decisions all the time that are not personal, that are business decisions. So in the moment, when you're being notified, you want to get out of the environment. You want to leave the workplace as soon as possible. You need to stop, you need to breathe, and you need to ask questions. You got to ask questions about the transition package, understanding when your last day, ask about the benefits, understanding what the expectations are if in the event another employer is going to call. So you need to stop, you need to think, you need to breathe, and then take some time and sort of learn from the experience.
All right,
ask yourself.
And then Andrea, so now you've exited this first company. What should you look for in the next company, and how should you think about the financial benefits that you're bringing with you, perhaps a 401k that needs to be moved over? What are the questions to ask now as you're exploring your next opportunity?
So I think probably the most important thing is to be a little bit introspective. Why didn't it work out at the last company? And probably you're not a cultural fit. The culture of the company's not a good fit for you, and vice versa. And so you should really do your homework around cultural fit. And if you think about it, we spend as much time at work as we probably do with our families, unfortunately. And so it's really important to understand, do the values of that company align to my values? Is it the kind of place that's going to give me the opportunity to grow, the autonomy that I need? The leadership, does the leadership values align to my values? And really do your homework on the culture. Look at social media, look at what they do in terms of giving back. Try and talk to people if you know people there. Go on sites like Glassdoor and understand what the company's all about. Relative to your finances, it's really important, particularly if you have a 401k, to make sure that you roll that over. Don't leave that money sitting there unattended to. either roll it into an IRA or roll it into your existing 401k at your new company, especially if you have a company match.
And why is that so important? Walk through maybe the fees that could be associated, what could happen with that money too if it is just left dormant there?
Well, what could happen to the money if it's just left dormant there is, first of all, it could get eaten away by just fees. Second of all, nobody's managing it. I mean, many 401s are obviously invested in different portfolios, and so if nobody's watching that, your money's not going to grow. It's just going to sit there. It doesn't have an opportunity to work for you. So it's really important that you're just not leaving it there. The other thing is people may change at the company that you're at. Human resources people change, contacts change, and I've seen a lot of people forget about their 401k or not be able to get access to it at an old company because they just simply don't know how to get a hold of the right person. So it's really important to pull it over as quickly as you can.
Kathy, one last question on this topic before we move to other kinds of breakups. COBRA and health insurance, what are the considerations that you need to make there, and how do you think about, at what point do you need to opt into COBRA? And what is COBRA for people maybe who haven't
First of
left?
all, each company has different terms on their medical. So at Ally, an individual that leaves in the middle of the month will remain on our health care coverage to the end of the month. Each employer has a requirement to offer COBRA for up to 18 months at the company's premium. So that's coverage that the individual can opt into. Usually they'll receive notification of how to access that COBRA coverage, usually 30 to 45 days after termination.
And I think what people forget is that it's retroactively
That's
works
correct.
for you. So in other words, if you leave the company, let's say, this month, and then the next month, you've got 30 days, I think, to go backwards and opt
Absolutely.
in,
There's
right?
no gap in coverage. Actually, you can go up to almost 90 days before you actually opt in.
Let's switch gears a little bit, and this was the question when I knew you guys were coming on. This is the question I went to our producers and I said, I wanted to ask you guys about. If you are in a marriage or a domestic partnership or any kind of scenario where with a significant other you have a joint bank account and the relationship ends, Andrea, what's the first thing you need to do with your bank?
Why'd you pick me for that question, Chad?
Well, now I'm in trouble.
No, it's a great question. And, obviously you're going through a lot of emotion when you go through a breakup and you're not thinking clearly. The first thing that you kind of need to do, particularly if you're in a marriage or you're in a long-term relationship where your finances are tied together, is you need to take a breath and think rationally. First and foremost, you have to protect yourself. So you have to look at any joint assets that you have together. What do you want to separate from? So for instance, if your spouse or significant other is a beneficiary on a life insurance or a 401k, you want to make sure that you remove them within the guidelines of the law when you properly can. You have to think about any liquid cash that you have together, bank accounts, savings accounts, etc. You can't just remove a spouse from a bank account without their signature, so you have to go through that whole process. You have to take a bit of an inventory. What are the things that are yours that you want? What are the things that are theirs that they want? And what I would recommend is, just don't fight over the little stuff. I've seen people that have gone through bad breakups that have spent more money on lawyer fees arguing for stupid things than they have just taking a moral inventory, taking a physical inventory, and dividing up in a natural way and going their separate ways.
And what is the time frame that people should expect if this is a case and becomes a reality for them, that this breakup financially, I guess, takes to occur, takes to happen to fully separate the two?
Well, it depends on if you're married or just living with somebody, but let's just say that you're married, and it's going to differ by state because many states have a cooling off period of time before you can really do anything financially. So that really is dependent on where you live. But I would say that you want to do it very quickly. You at least want to take stock of what you have together. It's amazing how many people are in relationships where one person is really the CFO, for lack of a better term, and the other person doesn't have any idea about their finances. If you're in that situation, you should quickly educate yourself.
Let's say it's amicable. And I'm an Ally customer with my domestic partner or spouse. Can I go in and see my banker and say, can you walk us through the separation? We want to create two accounts. Here's how we want it, if in an amicable situation.
Absolutely. At Ally, we've got world-class customer service representatives. You can pick up the phone, call one of our customer service advocates, and they'll walk you through everything that needs to be done. Most banks will do that for you, but it's really important to, like I said, take that inventory and do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, next question, and we'll go back to you on this one. What if you're breaking up with a city? And what kind of financial considerations will impact you if you're moving from one city to another? Would it be different tax rates? Would it be different regulations around different ways that income is accounted for? What do you need to worry about in that situation?
Well, I'm not a tax attorney, but the first thing
fine.
is, let me, disclaimer
But,
here.
no, but you probably have employees that
Oh,
you're moving
absolutely.
across state lines. And
Well, we have employees that move across state lines or different payroll taxes. And just recently, we just centralized all our employees from the suburbs of Michigan to Detroit. And that has a 2% state city tax. So those are the types of implications you got to take in.
well, we just had up here, we had a nice graphic up here that the gang just did, and they talked about cost of living adjustments. And we have a lot of young viewers. I mean, how is it fair to talk about a cost of living adjustment if you're moving from a suburb, let's say in Michigan, to the city where I would imagine costs might be higher?
Right.
What do you say to your employer?
Absolutely. You can sit down with your employer and have the discussion about the cost of living difference. You can talk about the fair rate for the role. There's a lot of job market data out there. You would talk to your HR professional. They can help you understand what the going rate is within that area. But it's a very fair conversation to have with your HR and your new boss.
I think another thing is it's really important as you're considering a bigger move. So say you're going from Michigan to California or you're moving into New York, you really need to do your homework around what the cost of living is in those cities. It's not just housing market, but it's groceries, it's taxes, it's a lot of things that people don't think about, cost of transportation, all those things, and you really want to make sure that's factored into any increase that you're getting from a salary standpoint.
All right, do your homework. Thank you so much for joining us. Andrea Riley, Chief Marketing and Public Relations Officer for Ally, and
we didn't
Kathy
talk about
Patterson.
autos this time. Next time we got to talk about, you and I are both car lovers.
All right.
We got to talk about the car element of your Cheddar. So that'll be next time.
Anytime.
Guys, can I get the control room on here for a second? Guys, we got to do an auto segment. Is autos the next theme one, Tony?
It's not the next one, but it's coming up.
Okay, so Tony says we have a shot of the control room. So now, if I want to manage the company while I'm on the air, I can actually do.
That's
so autos
awesome.
is coming up. All right, a pleasure having you guys.